All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Sonia. I am the ProChange agent, and I want to welcome you to this presentation on career fairs, preparing for them, and tips that you can use as a job seeker. Tonight's presentation will be recorded, so if you have any further questions, you can always revert back to the recording on our website, www.prochangeagent.com. When you're looking at going to and attending a job fair, it's pretty competitive and it can be a little bit daunting. Career fairs are an excellent way to meet recruiters and hiring managers face to face, and you can make great connections with multiple companies within a short amount of time. So it really is good to get that face time with the employers. Even if you're not offered a job on the spot, you can still have the opportunity to make a great impression. There are three things that you can do to leverage your success at a career fair. Step one, you can research the companies that are going to be in attendance in advance and look at the opportunities that they have and identify opportunities of interest to you. Chances are you won't be interested in every company or job title that is going to be available through those employers, but chances are you may find a job that you are interested in. And what a great way to get in front of the employer in order to meet them and make that first impression. The next thing that you want to do is you want to look at those job titles and make sure that they align with your skills and experience. And then you want to do a little research. You want to go on to Glassdoor. When doing this, you want to look at job titles and the company culture, the salary that's being offered, and people who are already in that role. And then you can also look at the BLS so that you can understand what the occupational outlook is for that job, as well as the industry of that company that is in attendance. So you can know, is this going to be a job that is going to be sustainable in the years to come? After all, you're a job seeker, and so you don't want to be back on the job market very quickly. The next thing that you want to do is you want to tailor your resume for the opportunities and then apply before you go to the job fair. And then bring your tailored resumes to the job fair, targeting those specific companies. So you may not stop at every booth. You may just want to stop at those employers that you're interested in talking to. You should also bring a few generic resumes so you can connect with other companies that maybe you didn't know that they would be at the event, or maybe they didn't get a chance to be on the notice that they were actually going to be a part of the event, because sometimes they register late. But be sure, whatever you do, to collect business cards from each recruiter and write a brief note on the back of each of those cards so that you can follow up with them by email or remember little details about those individuals so that when you reconnect with them, you will remember them, and that's going to make you memorable. The next thing that you want to do, as we mentioned earlier, is tailor your resume. So let's look at what that really means. So we're going to look at developing an effective resume, and this is going to be the short version of this. Of course, I do have a longer version of this available on the website, ProChange.com. So in developing a effective resume, you want to be able to look at the job descriptions. Now, a lot of people will say that I've applied everywhere and haven't received a response yet. Some people think that it's because of their age, or maybe they've been out of the job market for quite some time. Others may think, well, I'm a new grad, I don't have that much experience, and if I don't have any experience, how am I going to gain any if I don't have the opportunity? Next, others may feel like they've sent out 1 million resumes, and so they're thinking, well, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my resume? And then others may think, why is this taking so long? Why is it taking so long for the employer to get back in touch with me? One of the things that you have to understand when you're thinking about your resume is you don't want to blast out the same resume to apply for multiple jobs. You've been mass mailing or distributing your resume and you've not received a call back for an interview, you're taking the wrong approach. Quality over quantity will yield you better results when it comes to your resume. So you don't want to blast out one well-formatted resume to a bunch of different jobs. Chances are, if you are taking that approach, you more than likely are not getting any responses. So you cannot use the same resume to apply for different jobs. Now, this is a Burger King analogy that I like to tell people about. because it's really good when you think about this. Let's pretend you're a vegan and you're out with a bunch of friends and they decide to go to Burger King. Well, you're a vegan, you don't eat Burger King. So when you walk into their resume, or excuse me, to their restaurant, you're going to see their menu board and you're going to see the variations of food and drinks that they have there. And nothing is going to appeal to you. So no matter how well organized, well formatted, or good looking their menu is, and no matter how many offerings they have all over their menu, nothing is going to compel you to buy because you are a vegan. And so your resume is the menu board, and the offerings are what you have on your resume. And the vegan is the employer. So you have to make sure that when you put together your resume, that it's going to have information about you that is relevant to that employer. And sometimes people assume that a recruiter is going to infer things about their experience based on their job title. And this is where customization comes into play. Now, if Burger King had a vegan menu, they would be more apt to sell to someone like yourself. And in other words, if you look at the job description and pull out any skill sets that are important to that employer and add it into your resume, if you actually possess that skill, then you're going to increase your chances of getting an interview. So the question is, are employers able to have it their way? Does your resume highlight what you want to say about yourself, or does your resume highlight the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you possess that are critical for you to have in the job that they've posted? Are you highlighting those skills? And have you demonstrated proficiency and competency for those skills? In other words, is your resume about you or how your skills align with the job that you're applying for? For example, if the employer is asking for Excel, then you don't want to use very vague statements such as these. These are not going to work in terms of appealing to the employer because the first statement is too vague and the second statement is saying that you have Excel experience, but it's not giving them enough information about your level of competency in using Excel. So you really want to put together, if this is an important skill for you to have, a more detailed description of how you utilize the software in your day-to-day work, such as these two statements. These are too vague, but the last two will give the employers a greater sense of your competency with that skill. So again, you want to think about when you're reading those job descriptions, if you have the skills, knowledge, and ability. If so, how do you use these? And which jobs or classes have you used them in? And did you obtain any special training for that skill? In other words, you don't want to have one specific resume to blast out to a bunch of different employers because it doesn't work. And that's why you're not getting any responses. So now let's talk about your resume and the ATS. The ATS stands for Applicant Tracking Software. This is a recruiter that you see here up in the top left, and he's looking at his ATS, which is the screenshot that you're looking for. Look at here in front of you. When you're looking at the background, basically, a recruiter has more than one job to fill in their organization. So when you're applying for a job, you're not the only one applying for that specific job. So this ATS is going to scan your resume and every other resume that has been submitted for that specific job. And it's going to rank you guys by who is the most qualified to who is the least qualified. And if you look in that little right-hand corner, you will notice that there are 12 pages of applicants. And here there are 12 applicants per page. So that's over 144 applicants. So most of the time in today's statistics, we're looking at over 250 resumes per job requisition that is posted. So you want to keep this in mind, and this is another reason why you must tailor your resume, because the skills that you are promoting on your resume are going to help you rank higher among your competition. So again, you cannot use the same resume to apply for different jobs because the ATS, or applicant tracking software, is going to rank you among your competition. So you need to take the time to tailor your resume to each job, or it will never be read by the recruiter Why? With over 100, 250 resumes coming in per job, most recruiters have more than one job to fill in their organization. So, hypothetically, if they have 100 applicants per job and there are 10 jobs to fill, that's over 1,000 resumes. They simply won't have the time. So, similar to Google, the ATS is going to rank the candidates by who is the most qualified to who is the least qualified. So out of those 100, maybe the top 20 resumes are actually going to be pulled. So those who are number 21 through 100 will never be seen. This is another reason why you want to tailor your resume. JobScan is a tool that you can use to help you to rank higher among your competition. So here, when we look at JobScan, this is a tool that operates exactly like an ATS, and it's one that you should be using before you ever apply to a job. It's going to allow you to paste your resume on one side, and then you'll be able to paste the job description on the other side. So as mentioned, this is what an ATS is going to do. It's going to scan your resume content against the job for which you are applying. So you want to make sure that you are able to put in both the resume and the job description. In this case, we have a candidate who is looking for an executive assistant position. So she needs to highlight this job description and copy the contents. And once she copies that contents, then she can paste it over into JobScan and perform a scan against her resume. So now she's going to paste the resume, or excuse me, the job, and then she's going to press scan. What's going to happen here is she's going to get a match rate. What is her percentage of match for that job that she is looking at General Motors? So here she is. She's an executive assistant. She has over 10 years of experience, but she's only a 25% match for the job. So one of the things that this does is it helps you to understand that among your competition, you're not going to rank very high, or this candidate won't rank very high. She needs to try to get to 80% or above in order to rank highest among her competition. So you're probably wondering how she would do this. So again, JobScan is an algorithm similar to Google, and it's going to scrub those resumes for key terms that align with the job description, and it's going to let you know these are the things that you need to add into your resume. So this report is going to tell you as a candidate, and again, you want to do this before you actually apply, it's going to let you know what's missing. So a lot of people know about the keyword game, but it is a little bit more to it than meets the eye. So one of the things that you want to notice is that this is broken up into three sections, this particular report. Okay, hard skills, soft skills, and other keywords. So under the section that is entitled hard skills, there are some terms here that are missing. And how do we know? Well, the red X's indicate that those particular key terms are missing from this candidate's resume. And this is kind of read like an Excel chart. So if you think of it that way, that column with the red X's, it represents all of the key terms that are not on the resume. Now, those first two in orange are predicted skills because JobScan is AI. It does not impact your score if you add or do not add those two terms, okay? But the ones in blue are definitely ones that you want to add into your resume because these are the ones that are actually in the job description and are going to impact that 25%, okay? So what your job will be and what this candidate's job will be is to incorporate these key terms into her resume. And she will do that for each of the different sections in this report. The word license is not on the resume, but it is mentioned once. The word engagement, not on the resume, mentioned once, etc. So as you look at this, you can know that these are words that need to be incorporated. So we're going to see how this candidate incorporates these key terms into her resume. This is not an error, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. So now that we've gotten through the hard skills, we can look and see which of the soft skills are missing. And I always tell people, no matter what job you or position you hold in an organization, soft skills can always be added to your resume. So this is one thing you should never omit. You should always be able to add those in. And then under other key terms, then you'll see some more keywords to be added. So now that this candidate, top candidate, knows what key terms are missing from her resume, she can now incorporate those key terms into her resume. So here is the after effect of her adding those key terms to her resume. And you can see here, when we compare it to the job scan report and we correlate the two, we can see how she incorporated these. And you want to do it in a quantitative way. You don't, or qualitative way rather. You don't want to just add these in a random way. So if we're looking at this, then we can look and see how these words can be added in. So for example, when I did a search over here in Word for the word engagement. So when I look up the word engagement and where we've been able to put it onto her resume, we see that that was one of the missing key terms. We've been able to add it in under one of her bullet points. And then we've been able to do that with other key terms as well. So let's take a look at those. So another term that was missing was computer software. So we were able to integrate that into the resume as well. So what I've done here is I've highlighted all of the different key terms that were in the job scan report as they were added to this resume. So it wasn't that she was not qualified. Obviously, she had 10 years of experience as an executive assistant, but it wasn't enough. So had she sent in her resume as is, assuming that she did a great job outlining her experience, it would have been a mistake. So now that we've added the key terms, the next thing that we want to do is we want to update the resume in JobScan. And again, all of this before she applies. So right now she's at a 25% match rate. After adding in the key terms, we're going to go over to the left-hand side and we are going to, you want to show more, by the way, so that you can show all of the key terms. And this is very important. I don't want to forget that, because sometimes there are more keywords to be revealed. And in order to get your match rate up as high as you can, you want to make sure you're revealing all of the missing key terms. So be sure to click Show More so that all of those key terms are integrated. Now we'll go over to the left. We're going to delete out the before resume and we're going to paste in the after resume. This is the resume after we have added the key terms, and we're going to rescan. Remember, she was at a 25% match rate. And by adding those key terms, she's been able to go up to an 85% match rate. That's a 60% increase, which directly impacts where she lands among her competition. Now, when she applies for this job, she will rank higher among her competition and will have a higher probability of having her resume actually read by a recruiter, from 25% to 85%. So it takes more time and effort to put together this resume. You can know that this is actually going to impact your match rate. So it's very, very important that you go ahead and be sure that you are able to incorporate those key terms so that you can match to the job better, even if you have done a similar job. In this case, we had a person who was an administrative assistant applying for this executive assistant position. She had all of the necessary skills and education. However, some of the key terms that would make her rank higher were missing. So you want to utilize JobScan before you go and apply for that job. And this is something you want to do before you go to the career fair. So let's talk about a few more of these tips and then we will be done. So the first thing is you want to prepare your elevator pitch. So when you're thinking about an elevator pitch, it's not actually an elevator ride, okay? It is a 30-second commercial, and the elevator pitch essentially talks about who you are and what your value proposition is and what you bring to the table. And so in looking at that, you want to think about yourself. Think about when you meet people, what do you want to tell them about yourself? Usually, when you get into an interview situation, they're going to ask you or ask the question, tell me about yourself. You want to be prepared to answer that question. And your job search is definitely about what you want and need, but when it comes to interviewing or getting in front of these employers at the career fair, it's more about what you have to offer the employer. So your story should revolve around that idea. And you want to be personable, but not too personal. Focus on skills and what you bring to the table and ask yourself in listening back to your elevator pitch, which you should write out and read and rehearse, would you hire you? So during your elevator pitch or during an interview, your pitch should highlight your professional identity. So yes, at these job fairs, they're actually interviewing you. So you definitely want to rehearse your pitch. You want to write it and rehearse it until it feels like second nature. You want it to be concise, but not rushed, 30 to 60 seconds, because there's a line behind you. And understand the purpose of giving that pitch. If you've already identified a job that you're interested in, you may have to tailor your pitch to each of the different employers that you're talking to. Not so much that you're being a different person, but in essence, you want to talk about things that are going to be relevant to that employer. So just like you would tailor your resume for the job, you want to tailor your elevator pitch for the company and position for which you're applying. So you want to set the stage, and as you begin to craft your own elevator pitch, think about how you'll set that stage for your audience, which is the employers who will be at the career fair. You want to start by introducing yourself and sharing your career interest. Be creative and think about how your elevator pitch may sound from the listener's perspective. And would the listener want to hear about you? So if you are speaking with a potential employer, they would most likely want to hear about your career passion and relevant highlights and talents and skills and accolades and things that you've accomplished in your prior roles. So these are things that you want to think about when developing your elevator pitch. Finally, remember those business cards I told you to collect at the beginning of the presentation? Tomorrow, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into building a lasting impression by, first of all, connecting with all of those people that you were able to meet. Even if you didn't seal the deal right at the job fair, let's face it, most people are not hiring at job fairs. They're really trying to get a feel for the market. And sometimes they find the perfect people right at those opportunities and at those job fairs. So collect the business cards and then get on LinkedIn. Make sure that when you update your resume that you also update your LinkedIn profile so that there is continuity in your brand messaging on LinkedIn as it is with your resume. You're the same person on paper as you are online. That continuity is very important. And then start to reach out within 24 hours. Send a connection request to the people that you've met and collected their business cards and get to know them so that they can get to know you. Your LinkedIn profile should be pretty well put together. So tomorrow we're going to talk about that because LinkedIn is a whole nother presentation in and of itself. I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to go to the website and click on contact, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Have a good evening.